Hi guys, and welcome to your next video on Pick and Place. So this is going to be mounting a board and placing some components. So how to get one of these boards fitted into the machine, get it aligned, set up software so that the Pick and Place machine knows the board's origin and the fiducials. And I'll show you how to get the board installed into the rails. After that, we'll do a little bit of pick and placing, manually entering the program into the Pick and Place machine. Now, I'm not going to go over CSV files and things like that today. I might do that later on in the next video. I'm just going to sum it all up today and do a couple of comments in the next video about the response I've had on this machine. Anyways, so let's get cracking on with this. So down on the board we're going to go onto the machine. Right, so down on the bed of the machine, sorry for the shaky hand, I'm holding the camera at the moment so you can see inside. On the right hand side we've got our lookup camera and the bulk feeders and what have you. On the left hand side we've got the bulk feeder and lookup camera. Right hand side is where you place your board, and you fit your board into these rails that run up and down here using the L brackets. You've got two different types of L brackets what you sit your board into. We've got a spring-loaded bracket that's used to clamp the board and keep it under tension to stop your board moving about when you're picking and placing. And you've got another rail that is fixed to slot your board into. Now when you get this machine, the spring-loaded one will be at the front usually. Now the engineer, the commissioner who came in to commission my machine and get it all set up, gave me a tip, and he flipped these around for me, but if they're not flipped around you can do them yourself, and that's to put the fixed one to the front. The reason for that is you can use the fixed one and the stop at the end to set your board origin, and then you never actually have to change it. Now you can use the bottom one and still keep this as your origin, but you don't get the stop on the end, so you can't buff your board up to the end of this, so it might be out every time you place a board. And also the back is variable, so sometimes your board, you might place a board, if this one's at the front you might place a board and you buff your board up, it's held tight in that position. Next time it's back slightly more, so it shifts your origin of your PCB out every time you place your board into this rail. But if you swap them around and have the fixed one at the front, you can fix this one at the front, the origin always stays in the same place. If your PCB origin is bottom left hand corner, this is a bottom left hand corner, so this always stays in place, and that will become apparent when we do the software side and you'll see how useful that is. And also you'll never have to shift this bottom bar, it will remain square, it remains fixed, and the only one that you need to change is this back one depending on how long your board is. And if you got a longer board or a shorter board, then all that you do is unscrew the two hex bolts, slide it back, retighten, and you can place your board in there and it will snap in with the spring load. So that's placing the board, and just as an example, slot my board in, it's in place, buff it up to the corner. This is going to be my origin on this machine, and I always keep my origin to the bottom left hand corner of my boards. My PCB board, the origin is bottom left hand corner. On my Pick and Place machine, my origin is always the bottom left hand corner, so in software I just need to set the origin once and it never changes. So it does make setting up a board a lot quicker and a lot easier. So that's setting up a board. And what's next? Let's do it in software. So first of all, put your board in the bottom rail, unscrew, place your board in the centre, set the distance, clamp it in place, tighten up your screws, your board's in place, and then just bring it over to the corner, to the left hand corner down here. That's all that you got to do for setting up the board. Everything else done in software. So let's do that. Okay, it's software time. So pick this up. Right then, once you started it up, you should be in board. If you're not in the board menu, go into the board menu, and we're going to set up the PCB position first. So, set. Coordinates already been defined, yeah, because we've got coordinates already in it, but I'm going to redefine them. Yes. So you want to select the origin, teaching, and the crosshairs. Now, as you can see from this, hopefully you can see. Yep, you can just about see it. Camera isn't that great on this one for picking up stuff, but hey ho. Still, jog your machine about your board. If you don't have the coordinates already predefined, the camera will be, in a quick jump, it'll be up in the top corner, so you bring it down to your board, which is down here. And you want to select the bottom left hand corner. If you're swapping the bars around, swap the bars around now, because you can use the camera and the course setting. You can move the camera left and right, up and down the bar. Once you got it on the corner, to square off your bar. But yeah, so I'll give you that tip. That way you can tell whether the bar's square to your the actual camera in the pick and place machine. So first of all, set this to the bottom corner of your board, and OK. Next thing that you want to do is the surface. So you want to teach in the pick and place machine the surface. So we'll do that now. Just get the camera on so you can see this in action. Use it up, it's up, and we're going to record. There we go. Measure, move it to the head to somewhere centre of your board. Always do it to the centre, because if it's a large board it might bow slightly, and you can work that into somewhere around the centre. OK. It comes down to measure the board with a nozzle. OK. That's your PCB position set. So it's set the top surface and it's set the XY coordinates of the origin of your PCB. Next, what you do, set the fiducials. So put your board in. Make sure that your board is unpasted when you first put your board in, so that'll become apparent when you start programming the stuff. So you want to do an unpasted board. That way you can see the pads and everything. I'm getting ahead of myself, so yeah, set the first fiducial. First fiducial is generally at the bottom left, or it could be a bottom right, depending on where you put the fiducials, but normally it's the bottom left. So whenever you do a fiducial on this machine, make sure it is a pad, it's copper, it's a copper layer, not a hole. And make sure it's a diamond or a cross. That way you can set the points, your horizontal and vertical bars, your lines, to the points of your diamond or your cross. And it makes centering the machine on your fiducial a lot easier. So that's a good tip for you. Round or squares, it's a lot harder to estimate the centre, and you can be off slightly. So get your fiducial, your crosshairs to the centre of the fiducial, shrink your box down, your vision box, so it's looking at the fiducial. Okay, that's our first fiducial in. Second fiducial, train it, same thing. Just click on the screens if you would, jumping around the board. Got that in course, so switch that to fine. And fine, adjust it to the centre. Okay, yeah, box is nice and small around the fiducial, it's in there. Let's expand that one because I've got a bit more room. Okay, that's my second fiducial in. Make sure that your pre-processing, your fiducial based PCB correction is on. That way fiducials are slightly off, it finds your fiducial slightly off, it will correct your pick and place components, so it will place the components in the right area. Once your fiducials are in, test them, let's do a quick check. Yeah, it's found that one. Second fiducial, test it. Yeah, okay. Whenever you do your fiducials, try not to keep them close to the bar, because if the bar is in the window, sometimes it's going to pick up on that area and your fiducial might fail. This one is a little close for my liking. It's at 82%, but it's matched it. So I've actually set the matching to 75%, so it's well within tolerance. Okay, and that is setting up your board. Next thing, programming. So when you program a board, click on program, it takes you into this layout. Program is where you program in your components for manual pick and placing. That's what we're going to do today. And you do that by right click, add and add. It's also got import, so you can import a CSV file from more or less any PCB package. You can also import direct from ProTel. Now I'm not going to run through this today, I'll do it the next time, but the import function is an extra feature that you'll have to pay for the privilege for, unfortunately, so you're going to have to activate that feature if you want the import function, but adding is very, very easy, and that's what we're going to go through. Got some controls up the bottom of up the top of the screen. You've got the single step, that's F6 when you run through your program. F8 is a component check. F12 is what you run. F6, F8 and F12 is what you use to actually do the machine controlling with. So adding in components, right click add, comes up with the add menu. So you want to add R1, select value for R1. On this board it's 47Ks, I've got three 47Ks, 0805s, two 0805 1 microfarad caps. So you program in all your components and what have you, that's all pre-done, and you just pick them out from the list what you want. So resistors, 805 resistors, 4K7s, OK, and you want to teach in and train at the centre of the component. Okay, so move this around. These are my two caps, which I'm going to do later on, but I've got components elsewhere. So at the moment it's at 0 degrees my component is, so I'll rotate it round, get it on the pads, make sure it's centre, so use the fine controls just to run it to the centre. OK, just clicking around, and it's as easy as that to slap on a component manually onto your board, and then just, as it were, rinse and repeat. So R2, 47K, I want it there this time, it's up here somewhere, I believe, there they are. Whack it into there, that's more or less centre, so OK, OK. Next one, add R3. Obviously, if you've got shitloads of components, then the CSV and import functions might be more useful to you. But for, you've got 5-6 components that you want to place, this is, reasonably quick. We've got 3 resistors on there already, and I'm going to have capacitors. I'm going to put that like C1, close that one, C1, 1 mics. Oh no, it's not that one, it is that one. 0805 cap, 1 microfarads. Okay, migrate to your board. One in there. Okay, okay. Next one, add C2, same value. Over there. That one's rotated 90 degrees, so hit the rotate button, fine adjust using the controls. Okay, okay. Bingo, that's our program loaded in. It's as simple as that. There's not much else. All the components are already preset in the libraries. It's just a matter of picking out your component, telling the machine where to place it, and okay. It's very, very simple, very straightforward. And as you can see up here, the check button is now on. Where now we've got a program. If you want to do a single step, select F6, and then whenever you run, it'll check the fiducial. Is that okay? Yes, no. You can select yes. Next fiducial, yes, no, yes. Right. It does the alignment. Goes to component 1. It says, do you want me to pick up this component because the camera's hovering over it? Say yes, no. It brings it to the camera. Is it the right orientation? Yes, no, and so on. So it gives you a single step function so you can step through picking and placing the various components. Or with the step function off, you can hit F12 and the program will pick and place your entire board all in one hit. One thing I want to point out is the highlighted line, wherever you highlight in your component menu, that's where the program will run from. So if it's on line 5, this last one, it'll just place the last component and then it'll bomb out of the program because there's nothing else to place afterwards. If it is on line 3, it'll place line 3, line 4, line 5, and then end the program. So you can, if you're missing components, you can place a single component and what have you, and you can tell it to skip parts and what have you, so you can skip over parts and whatnot just to place a single component. And yeah, so if you're doing the program from the start, you've not got any components on the board, you can just say, yeah, start from line 1 and hit F12, off it goes. Anything else? Nothing else. Right then, what you need to do next, take your board off the machine, now it's all been set up, and just to highlight that fact, if I add in a component, just say H whatever, I'll just do that one, teaching. As you can see, I've got no paste on these boards, so I'm going to paste up the board now. I'm just going to dot it on with a syringe, just a messy job, just to get a bit of paste so I can do picking and placing. But don't paste your pads when you do go to programming in your component, where your components go, simply because sometimes the paste might obscure the pads and then you won't be able to place your component accurately enough and center it. Yeah, you can get away with it, I know that, but if you want accuracy, then set up your board, program it with a blank board on there, unpaste it, then take the board off and paste it. So yeah, just to highlight that. So I'm going to paste the board up and I'll be back in a second. Alright, I've got my board pasted. So if you can see that, it's a little bit of a nasty paste. I just used a syringe of solder paste just to dot down a few blobs on here, didn't bother with a stencil or anything. Basically you put this into your back into the machine, try not to scuff your paste, slide it back to the origin. Like I say, the origin's always in the same place, so you can take your balls in and out, no problem. Once it's pasted, got your balls in, step line 1, and you can hit run place program. That's what we'll do now. Checks fiducials, starts picking and placing. And that's it done. Very simple, very quick. That was 5 components in a matter of seconds then. F8 just to check the board. So that's your board all checked. Checks each component, make sure it's all in the same place, gives you a visual reference. And that's your board pick and placed. There's not much more to actually say about that, so I'm going to sum this video up for now, and yeah, I'll see you next time with some feedback that I've had. I've even had the CEO from Mechatronica contact me, said thanks very much, and yeah, so I'll run through all that later on, and a couple of tips that people have sent in. But see you next time.